Okay, jumping now into plan resource management. This, again, like any other planning area for the knowledge areas, is going to tell us how. In this case, it's how we're going to estimate, acquire, and manage things. So there are a number of inputs now that are going to help us drive work to ensure sufficient resources are available. These resources can include the team members, the supplies, materials, so physical and HR resources. We have the inputs there, the charter, the plan, the documents, then of course EEFs and OPAs, which are very common. The charter will include a list of summary milestones, maybe some financial limits that will drive resource acquisition, and a stakeholder list, among other things. When I plan my resources, I'm going to have to consider, for example, the quality and scope of the work done. So imagine we have to know the requirements and the quality required. So that's going to drive a certain skill level, for example, in project managers, in engineers. And that skill level, the higher that's required, the more money it's going to cost, clearly. Then moving on then to the tools of project management. Expert judgment, of course, this is common that it's an individual or group of specialized knowledge. The knowledge in this case is about negotiating and talent development and estimating lead times to make sure those resources are there, the right resources at the right time, which is the overarching program for resource management. We're also going to do some data representation, and in doing data representation, I'll have a chart on the next slide. It is going to identify roles and responsibilities, and it does this in three ways, either in a hierarchical fashion, in a matrix, or in text formats. And the whole idea is to ensure work packages have an unambiguous owner, very important. Then there's organizational theory. It helps us understand how groups behave. This is a tool in resource management. So we're going to go over different types of theory, organizational theory. Note that a flexible leadership style adapts to the maturity level of the team. If the team is immature, you'll be more directive. If the team is more mature, easier to optimize, basically becomes self-sufficient very quickly, then you are more hands-off, supporting, guiding, approaching. Okay. I mentioned a minute ago one of the tools was data representation. And so here we define, as I mentioned, the roles and responsibilities of the work packages. And we're going to use these communication tools to define the roles. There are three communication tools to do that. One is hierarchical, one is an assignment matrix, also known as a RAM, a resource assignment matrix, and the final is written form of data representation. So the hierarchical looks just like an org chart or the work breakdown structure. It's hierarchical. It'll show high-level roles and responsibilities, like show a phone number and a job title, but really isn't going to give you very much. It is very similar to the traditional org chart structure. So we've seen an organizational breakdown structure. In OBS, it is not dissimilar from an RBS, resource breakdown structure, or a work breakdown structure, which is going to show roles and responsibilities by the deliverables themselves. The assignment matrix gets a lot more attention, and it's known as a RAM, Responsibility Assignment Matrix. And it's a grid of work with the work packages and the deliverables. So a subset of that is called the RACI chart, and that stands for Responsible, Accountable, Consult, and Inform. And in a RACI chart is a subset. It is a type of RAM. Okay, but this time, notice the RAM was about work packages to deliverables, where the RACI is going to show the work by activity. No longer the work package, but decomposed down further to the activity itself. So that makes it clearer than the RAM itself. And if you look on page 317, they give a sample RACI in the PMBOK guide. Notice as you look across, there can be more than one I for each activity. There can be more than one C. There can be more than one R, frankly. But there can never be more than one A for accountable. There's only one accountable person in each row. Okay? Very important. Communication tools. The tool called data representation, which is a tool in planned resource management. Here is a picture of a RACI chart. This is not complete by any stretch. This was one that I did when I was active duty, except I changed some of the names. You see the activities down the left-hand side and the people that I'm working with in those activities. Andy is myself. And so a friend of mine, DB, who was accountable for the charter, but he had given the responsibility to another division called IGI, and they consulted with me because I was frankly driving them to do it at the time. Same with collect requirements. When it came to developing the test plan, they asked me to be accountable, so I accepted that. I consulted with several. The SAF is the Secretary of the Air Force, and I made responsible the IGI division and functional managers, or FAMs, for certain activities, and I informed the general officers and a Tiger team associated with it. Similar construct for metrics. Again, a RACI is a type of RAM, and the RAM is about work packages and owners. This is about activities and owners in their role. Okay. And then we have the outputs for plan resource management, and they are as follows. The resource management plan. So think of it. The process is called plan resource management. So what's my output, my key output? I just move the words around. My resource management plan. Great. So now I have the resource management plan, which is telling me how I'm going to manage resources, allocate the resources, release them. It's going to define my roles and responsibilities. We just talked about that in the data representation, hierarchical assignment, or RAM, and text-oriented. In fact, I'll stop and say text-oriented roles and responsibilities is largely what we did in the military. We would get a performance report every year, and the very top box would have, in the Air Force, 5 lines, bullets, which would describe what I did, what my role was in that organization. The team charter is also an output that's different from the charter. This is the team charter. And so it establishes team values and agreements and operating guidelines. It says, hey, we're a team. Here's how we want our life to work, to run as we get along. And so it sets clear decision-making criteria, clear expectations, what it is to meet the guidelines. If we have conflict, well, no, we will have conflict. What's the resolution process? How do we communicate in the expectations and team values? It is important to note that everyone is responsible for enforcing the ground rules as set up in the team charter. And then project document updates. Okay, that's it